Hey now, before we get into this breakdown and review of Andor S2 E4 through 6, spoilers. It's not easy being a rebel in a rebellion, which was the general theme explored in another excellent Andor Season 2 arc that covered Cassian et al.'s big moves in 3BBY, while also setting up the inevitable fireworks for Ghorman Massacre Prime between the ISB and Luthen's movement. While this string of episodes featured less action than the first Season 2 arc, they somehow managed to deliver more tension through poignant discussions on the costs of rebellion for those who give everything for it, and those willing to commit atrocities to squash it. Bix, Luthen, and Saw in particular showcase the extremes that living under Imperial rule and trying to rebel against it can cause a person. Bix is down big due to her Gorst PTSD and has turned to drugs just to catch a break. Luthen is literally forming ulcers as he worries that his rebellion has become too big for him to control and maintain his security standards, and Saw has dipped further into madness, effectively rejoicing over his insanity caused by years of being a rebel, knowing he sacrificed his soul for a cause he will never see the fruits of. On the flip side, characters like Syril and Dedra seem to be thriving as they believe they're at the tip of the spear in helping their almighty empire achieve total peace amongst the rising rebellion movement. Syril literally proclaims he's had his best day ever after getting praise from Partagaz for being a Ghorman front plant, while Dedra herself is effectively using her lover to achieve the imperial glory she so desires. Tony and his team did a fantastic job showcasing the two sides of this galactic conflict, and I consider arcs like this as a treat as a fan of the original trilogy, because to me, I love seeing lore added to the formation of the rebellion, and how regular people like Cassian, Bix, Lonnie, Kleya, Vel, Cinta, and the others were willing to give up everything in the name of restoring democracy to the galaxy. This arc perfectly showcased the tolls of rebellion across the board, but it also shined for its strong plot advancement of this season's main threads, such as the Ghorman plot, the growing rebellion and the struggle it provides to all of its players and factions, Dedra and Syril's odd couple bond, Mon Mothma's realization that politics will no longer suffice, another main Andor character death in Cinta, and allowing Bix to close out her PTSD thread that was showcased in the premiere arc and throughout episodes 4 through 6. And we also got a few interesting plot threads for this arc that resolved by the end of episode 6, such as the Ghorman heist, which really helped to add a tension crescendo combined with Kleya's bug removal scheme to close out the arc, as well as Wilman's journey with Saw the Rhydo dope fiend. Even more than the premiere episode, this arc just felt perfectly paced and layered, which allowed for the closing of episode 6 to really give you the white-knuckle feel of anxiety as you watch the heroes come close to getting got, while giving some of the more damaged ones like Bix a well-needed victory. It just felt like I went on a journey, and by the end, the payoff was worth it. As I close out the review portion, I'd be remiss if I did not mention how cool it was to get the Legends version of the Ghorman Massacre canonized in live action via the rebranded Tarkin Massacre on Ghorman. What Tony did here is kind of special, because he not only is honoring the Legends event of Tarkin landing his cruiser on Ghorman's peacefully protesting the Empire's new tax policies, but he's essentially expanded upon the atrocities Ghorman's faced by making Tarkin's move canon, but also honoring the other versions of the Ghorman Massacre canonized in Rebels and novels. This massacre is the one we will more than likely see in episodes 7 through 9, and will result in Mothma calling out Palpatine and leaving the Senate to officially lead the rebellion. So getting the Tarkin Massacre clarified not only gives Legends fans a win, but it also adds to the overall lore of Ghorman and its role in helping to spark galactic coordinated rebellion against the Empire. Okay, top moments time. Sorry, I can't help myself with Syril and Dedra, but how could I not put their lights out special time on this list? It's just so true to form for these robotic Imperial humans. This episode was light on action, but heavy on great dialogue scenes, and I have to say that I really enjoyed watching Cassian do his rebel spy game stuff with Enza Rylance in the coffee shop. The writing was spot on about the Ghorman front being too impatient and the dangers that can lead to, and Diego nailed the dressing down of that character. Listen, I've never really been a fan of live-action Saw Gerrera, but that may be changing after his wild speech to Wilman about how he is crazy and being a lifelong rebel is the reason why. Which is due to never having any real friends, loved ones, being cannon fodder as he said, or having the solace of knowing that all of their sacrifices will be realized by themselves due to the cost of their actions. Saul knows he's crazy, and hearing him explain why just resonated with me, and I kinda understood why Wilman was swilled by his Rhydo-fueled lunacy. It wasn't very action-oriented, but I loved Kleya's bug removal operation at Skaldin's gallery. Her and Lonnie trying to get the bug out while Krennic and Mon had political pissing matches was a thing of tension-fueled beauty. When coupled with the cuts back to Vel and Cinta's heist on Ghorman, this scene really ratcheted up the stakes and made for some teeth-grinding moments by the viewer. I'm not gonna lie, but Vel's dressing down of the simpering fool was emotional gold. Man, that scene, even upon rewatch, elicits some feels in me, like watery eyes type of feels. Faye Marseille absolutely nailed her performance, and as a human, it hurt to feel her pain in losing her lover to the incompetence of a fledgling Ghorman resistance member. Loss has to be the hardest emotion for a person to deal with, and this scene captured it beautifully. Finally, mostly because of how it was shot to make you feel like Bix went rogue, but also because it will allow Bix to move on past her struggles, but I found the killing of Gorst to be a literal explosive end to this arc, which also added some hope for our heroes. When you combine their win with Luthen joking about how he and Kleya should have killed Krennic at the gallery, the end to this rather bleak arc for the rebels almost felt like a net win. Alright, eggs and references. Caro Rylance is played by Richard Sammel, who you may have seen in The Strain or getting his brains bashed in Inglourious Bastards. We got a Yukio mention at the market, which is from the TFA Beginner's Game. The Bureau door guards were watching some pod racing. Mon is trying to get the PORD rescinded, which is the Public Order Resentencing Directive that was put in place after the Aldhani mission in Andor Season 1. Tapasi is mentioned by Mon, which has been referenced many times before, including recently in the Star Wars Outlaws game. I went over this already, but I have to mention the Tarkin Massacre, which is a reference to a legend's tale set during the same year in which Tarkin lands his cruiser on peaceful protesters. Saul's partisans had a base on Dakar, which is the same base and planet we see the Resistance using in TFA, so a really cool sequel trilogy connection here. Rhydonium was first featured in a Clone Wars arc called Missing in Action. Luthen clearly has a thing for Padmé's headpieces, doesn't he? Saul discusses his past on Onderon and being in the jungle, which was all featured in the Clone Wars arc when fans first meet him and his sister. It seems clear now that the reason Saul needs a breathing mask and life suit in Rogue One is due to his exposure to Rhydonium. These gloves seem familiar, but they don't really feel like Star Killers, so I'm wondering if they're for Wookiees, which do have claws, but they can't use them in war, so maybe this is a workaround? I definitely know this is a Wookiee warrior helmet, so there's that. And finally, meet new Bail Organa, Benjamin Bratt, who apparently had to replace Jimmy Smits due to scheduling conflicts. Andor Season 2 once again impresses with well-paced, slow-boil mini-arc plots that also contribute to the season's overarching mega-threads, and this time, we even got a Legends expertly canonized. So here's to Tony Gilroy and his talented team for another round of gritty, mature, and very nuanced Star Wars. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Leave a comment, share it around, possibly become a channel member because there's always time for Star Wars time. And if you're down with our content, the Force will be with you. Always.